They thought I wouldn't notice, that I was too old, too tired, too gullible. But when I overheard my own children discussing how much I was worth dead, let's just say that was the day old man Harold stopped playing nice and started planning the best revenge of his life. Like, share, subscribe, because this isn't just a story, it's a masterclass in how to go out with a bang. Not a whimper. Harold Whitman was 79 and proud of his spotless yard, his veteran's cap, and his neatly stacked bank statements. After working 3 jobs and raising 3 kids alone after his wife's passing, Harold had a modest fortune tucked away. He didn't live fancy, didn't take vacations, but what he had, he saved for his kids. Or so he thought. Dad, you're gonna be 80 next month. Maybe it's time you wrote down where your will is. Just in case, said Linda, his eldest daughter, casually. One afternoon, Harold forgot his phone in the living room. When he came back to retrieve it, he froze. He's insured for $600,000, right? Whispered David. Yeah, and the house is fully paid off. I say within 5 years, we're looking at a cool $1 million, Linda replied. Harold stood in the hallway, gut punched. They weren't talking about memories. They were calculating his death. He didn't cry. He didn't confront. He got smart. Harold called his attorney, changed his will, cashed out what he could, and then booked a first-class ticket to Paris. Hello, yes. I'd like to rent a yacht in the south of France. For how long? Indefinitely. With the help of a kind traveler named Diego, Harold opened a TikTok account. At Harold Goes Wild. He filmed everything: wine tasting, skydiving, flamenco lessons. And he went viral. You spent how much on a camel ride? Linda shouted over the phone. Not enough, Harold said with a grin. When the money started vanishing, so did the masks. You're blowing our inheritance, cried David. No, I'm spending my retirement. You just assumed you had a claim to it, Harold shot back. They begged. They threatened. They even tried to file a conservatorship. Harold showed up in court. In Gucci shades. The judge laughed. Mr. Whitman seems more mentally competent than most people I know. Case dismissed. Linda screamed in the courtroom. David fainted. Harold spent his last year funding animal shelters, giving scholarships to janitors' kids, and tipping waiters $1,000 just because. He died in his sleep in Tuscany, but not before uploading one final video. Dialogue. To my dear kids, you could have had a father. Instead, you waited for a check. Enjoy the memories, if you have any. Back home, Linda sat with her face in her hands, sobbing as the media reported Harold's final TikTok, which had just hit 14 million views. He embarrassed us in front of the whole world, she screamed. Her meltdown at the funeral went viral too. The clip of her snatching the photo from Harold's casket and yelling, "You selfish old man," was turned into thousands of memes. The lawyer opened the safe deposit box and pulled out Harold's final will. No mention of Linda. No mention of David. No inheritance. Instead, Harold had set up a non-profit, the Harold Whitman Live Now Foundation. Its mission? Teach senior citizens how to live without fear and never let their kids guilt-trip them again. He gave it all away? To strangers. David muttered, pale. At the reading, a woman named Rosa stood up. He paid for my daughter's cancer treatment and sent her a handwritten letter every week. Then came a young man. He sponsored my college education. I'm the first in my family to graduate. One after another, people stood up. Dozens. All touched by Harold's quiet generosity. Linda and David looked like ghosts. Linda tried to defend herself online. Big mistake. Her Reddit post, AITA for being mad my dad spent my inheritance, got over 200,000 downvotes. Top comment, yes, you are. Hugely. Memes flooded in. She was dubbed Inheritance Karen. Harold's TikTok grew to 12 million followers. The foundation received millions in donations. His story was picked up by Netflix for a miniseries. He became a legend. Not for how he died, but for how he lived. A small bench now stands in front of his hometown diner, with a plaque that reads, "Don't wait for someday. Spend it while you're here." 2 months later, a package arrived for Linda. Inside, a locket she gave Harold when she was 10. Inside the locket was a folded note in his handwriting. "I kept this near my heart. I only wish you'd kept me in yours." She broke down for real this time. David, humiliated and broke, applied for a position at Harold's foundation. "I want to do better. I want to help the people Dad cared about." The board made him volunteer for a year, without pay, before even considering hiring him. A final unreleased video appeared on Harold's TikTok. In it, he's walking through a vineyard with a woman. "This is Carla. We met at the market. She made me laugh like my wife once did." Turns out, Harold had fallen in love again and married Carla a week before he died. Linda and David tried once more to sue, claiming the marriage was fake. But Carla produced a prenup and a letter from Harold. "If my kids come after you, remind them I taught you how to duck." Case dismissed. At the first annual gala of the Harold Whitman Foundation, Carla gave a speech. Harold didn't just spend his money, he spent his love. That's why he died rich, even if the bank said he had $4.38. Standing ovation. People cried, including Linda. She whispered, "I wish I had known this version of my dad." 6 months after Harold's death, a maintenance worker cleaning out his old barn found something strange, a steel trapdoor beneath a pile of hay. Inside was a vault. And inside that vault? Journals. Dozens of them. Harold had documented everything. His struggles, loneliness, the betrayal, and most importantly, his detailed plans to outsmart his kids and inspire the world. One journal ended with, "If you're reading this, then good. It means I mattered after all." Tucked inside one of the journals was a USB drive. On it was a video Harold recorded months before his passing. It was labeled, "Play this when they finally learn." In the video, Harold sat on a rocking chair, wine glass in hand. "Linda, David, if you're watching this, then congratulations. You've finally hit rock bottom. Good. Now you can climb back up, with character this time." He went on to give them a list of charities, people they wronged, and one final challenge. "Earn your way into my foundation. Or don't. But if you do, do it right." At the foundation gala's second year, a man named Buck Harrison showed up, an old war buddy of Harold's. He was 94. And blind. Dialogue, "Harold saved my life in Korea. Took a bullet meant for me. Never once bragged about it." Then Buck said something no one expected. "And he told me, years later, if his kids turned out greedy, I was to deliver a letter." Buck handed over a worn envelope. Linda opened it. Inside was a note that read, "Forgiveness isn't a gift you receive. It's one you earn. If you want mine, feed someone who's hungry, hug someone who's lonely, and listen without interrupting." It hit Linda like a freight train. She walked off stage, found the nearest homeless shelter, and began volunteering that night. David, now helping clean toilets at the foundation, finally began speaking with the people Harold helped. One teenage girl looked at him and said, "I don't know who your dad was to you, but to me, he was the only father figure I've ever had." David wept. Not performatively, but because for the first time in decades he felt something real. The foundation's board decided to hold a press conference to honor Harold's legacy. They invited Linda and David to speak. Controversial but powerful. David stepped up first. "I used to think money was the only legacy that mattered. Then I met the people Dad helped, and I realized he was richer than I'll ever be." Linda followed, voice trembling. "I was angry. I was entitled. But now I know he was trying to teach us, and I failed that lesson. Until now." Back at Harold's garage, Carla found an old rusted toolbox. Inside, under a false bottom, was a sealed envelope labeled "Last Surprise." She opened it. "Carla, if you find this, it means they finally listened. Let them read this next part themselves." The attached letter was delivered to Linda and David. "My dearest screw-ups, if you made it this far, maybe there's hope. Just don't blow it again." He'd left them one final task, to open Harold's last project, a retirement home that wasn't just a facility, but a sanctuary for elders with no family. With the help of the foundation and community donors, Linda and David oversaw construction of Whitman Haven, It featured art classes, a rooftop garden, and a studio where seniors could record their life stories. One wall bore Harold's portrait with the words, "Life loud, love louder." Harold's veteran hat, Thought Lost, was mailed anonymously to the foundation. Inside the cap was a note. This hat saw war, rain, betrayal, and forgiveness. Let it rest where it belongs. They placed it in a glass case at the entrance of Whitman Haven. David's daughter, Emily, who had been estranged during all the drama, emailed Linda. "I watched Grandpa's videos. I think I understand now. I want to help." Emily joined as a volunteer and eventually became the foundation's youngest board member. On the first anniversary of Harold's passing, Carla buried a time capsule in the garden of Whitman Haven. Inside, Harold's journal, a bottle of his favorite scotch, the original life insurance papers, and a flash drive titled "Don't Cry Yet," set to be opened in 50 years. The foundation released one last TikTok Harold had scheduled. He sat on a bench, sunset behind him. You can't take it with you, but you can make damn sure it meant something before you go. If you're still watching, then maybe you needed to hear that. Harold's story was taught in classrooms. The foundation expanded globally. Seniors all over the world shared their stories, feeling seen, heard, and inspired. Linda and David continued the mission, not out of guilt, but out of love. And every year on Harold's birthday, the world would flood TikTok with the hashtag #SpendItLikeHarold. The kids received a single envelope at the funeral. Inside was a photo of Harold on a jet ski flipping the bird, and a sticky note, "Don't wait for people to die. Go live." If you're still watching, would you do what Harold did? Comment below. Like, share, subscribe. Because sometimes the best inheritance is a story that inspires you to live.